All right, welcome everybody to episode 72 of Navigating Now. My name is Amanda Lobo. I am the Chief of Staff here at Thought and a few housekeeping things before we get this kicked off. Just want to say thank you to our viewers from all across the social media platforms. We are committed to being here every Thursday at 3 p.m. and we love to see you here. You can view previous episodes and future episodes at thoughttm.com/live, and we love to see you there. I'm joined today by a very valued member of our community, someone I call a best friend, and a two-time Navigating Now guest, Daryn Schwartz, the founder and CEO of The Space Between Yoga. Daryn, I have a very important question to kick this call off.
Ooh, okay.
It's a question that you and I ask each other often, sometimes daily.
I think I know what it is.
How's your heart today?
You know what? My heart is really good right now. It's been a funky couple of days, I'm not gonna lie, but sitting here next to you is an absolute delight, and I feel good and ready to do this. So my heart is happy.
Mine too.
Thanks for asking.
Yeah, I'm so happy you're here, and I'm happy to share the space with you today. I would love to start this call off with a little bit of your story. So for people that haven't in the community that have joined recently and haven't met you yet, who is Daryn, and tell us a little bit about The Space Between.
Okay. Hi everybody, I'm Daryn Schwartz. I am so thrilled to be back in this seat, this time with my best friend. Who am I? What is The Space Between? How did we get here? I come from Athens, Georgia, and I spent 15 years in the corporate world, in sales and sales management. And about the 15-year mark, my soul started to whisper, like, this isn't it. Like, this isn't it. There's something more. And I started to listen to that and start to try to understand why this wasn't it and what would be it. I remember when I was like 22, I was fresh out of college. I was getting ready for work one day. I was like putting on my Old Navy slacks, the cuffed slacks that were popular in 2002. And I was like buttoning up my twin set, and I was facing myself in the mirror, and I was like, I can't believe I have to do this every day for the next 45 years. And I cried a little bit. I was like, I'm like stuck on this path, and I have to go sit under these fluorescent lights in a cubicle and answer to somebody else every day for the next 45 years. And so I kind of put that out of my mind, and I did my job, and I grew in my career, and I was pretty good at what I was doing. I was in sales and sales management in the advertising world, and around 2016, my company sent me to LA for work, and I just started to get that nagging feeling. So I started to explore. I tried to listen in, try to understand what it was that I wanted to be doing. I knew I needed to do something that aligned with who I was. So I started looking into jobs that aligned with who I was. And then I took a yoga class in a studio in LA, and I was laying in Shavasana, kind of like this. And all of a sudden I was like, I should open a yoga studio. I think I could do this, but I think I could do it better. And we walked out, and my friend looked at me, and she was like, you should open a yoga studio. And I was like, all right. So I started putting pen to paper. First thing I did was I came up with a name for it. The name then was Rhythm and Flow. Right. So a far cry from The Space Between. And I started writing a business plan. And most importantly, I started talking about it to anyone who would listen. I started talking to my friends to say, I want to do this thing. What do you think? And I had friends said, I'd love to help you. A friend helped me write a P&L statement. A friend gave me a business plan template. And then I just started talking about it, and I thought, maybe one day I'll do this, but I have this job, and this job is a good job, and I can't just give up this good job for the unknown. Yeah. And then about 4 months later, I got laid off. And I spent about 30 seconds being upset about it. And then I realized it was the universe being like, hey girl, go do this thing.
Time. Yep.
Yeah, it's time.
Yep.
And so at that point, I was like full steam ahead. I went to Bali. I got my teacher certificate there. And Bali's really where the idea, the concept started to soften. Yeah. It became a lot more soulful.
As all things do in Bali.
As all things, you've
yes,
been
I
there.
know.
Yeah, like you speak to one medicine woman and your life has changed, right? You go to all the healers, you hold all the crystals, and you do all the things, and there's just something about that magical energy. And Truly. I knew this needed to be something deeper. This needed to be something softer. And so kind of full steam ahead there. The name changed, came up with the name, The Space Between. I was about a year and a half into the process, and I was getting kind of beat down by it. You know, all the fear was creeping in, all the doubt was creeping in. I was letting all the stories in my head kind of say, like, you can't do this. What makes you think you can do this? And I actually put a pause on it. And I called my realtor and I said, hey, like, stop looking. I think I need a breather on this. This is scary. And a couple months later, my realtor called and she was like, hey, I just saw your space and you need to come see it. And if this isn't your space, you're not going to do this. Yeah. And a week later, I walked into 222 West Hubbard. I walked down those steps and the vision just came flooding back to me. And I could like close my eyes and I could hear it. I could smell it. I could see it. I could taste it. I could feel it. And I knew the space between was becoming. And probably about 6 months later, we opened our doors. And that was September of 2018. And then September of 2019, we opened at the Hoxton, right next door to where we are now. And at the time, I was building an empire. I wanted to have this like big vision, all these studios. And so the Hoxton was like part of that plan. And I was marching full steam ahead on that as well. And then March of 2020 happened.
Yeah. Let's pause there.
Okay.
Because we're going to definitely go into that. I want to point out, I love your story. I love hearing your story. It resonates with me every time. And I think it resonates with a lot of people that have big ideas, but maybe get scared in taking the steps to execution, right? So scary.
It's scary.
Yeah, I mean, the audacity, I always say. I love that. But I also love that you were the second guest of season 2 Navigating Now.
Oh, right.
And you are the third guest of season 3.
Thanks for having me.
Which I love. Yeah, which I love. I want to know how season 3, Daryn, is different than season 2, Daryn.
Woo! That is such a good and big question.
Because I've seen it, but I want our community to know.
Yeah. Probably when Anthony and I spoke in season 2, what was that, May, maybe? I was in a pretty tough spot. I was in a pretty dark place. The future of my business hung in the balance. You know, we were in the throes of a pandemic. We had fought tooth and nail to stay alive. We'd done things that really went against our DNA, like virtual yoga, just to stay alive, to keep our community together. And I was tired and I had been through a lot and I was almost ready to just be like, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm tired. This is hard. Season 3, I've done a lot of work and a lot of soul searching and a lot of healing. And I have to tell you, I'm like entering a really bright period of my life. Yeah. Season 3 is like a big It's it.
Yeah.
You know, I say like season 2, let's say, 2020 and 2021 were for coming undone, for healing, for taking care of, myself. 2022 is where I expand.
Yes.
It's where I thrive.
It's bright.
It's really bright. Yeah. I'm excited.
I agree. I want to click back into the pandemic and how the last couple of years and just the collective,
dark days.
just the collective struggle has impacted the space between. I want to click into what has remained true, because if you haven't been to the space between, it is an experience. It's not just a yoga class, and that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to really go deep on meaningful and unique experiences. What has remained true in executing those types of experience, and what did you have to let go in those couple years? And even still, we're still in it, right?
Yeah, we're still in it. What has remained true is that people need a safe space. And now more than ever,
right.
People need a place to come and to feel like they can just lay it down, that they can lay their burden down. And that's something that we've always been able to offer. We've created a container that allows people to come in and get exactly what they need. And they can lay it down and they can laugh, they can cry, they can grieve, they can love, they can do anything in that space. I mean, the amount of times that people have come out of that room and said, I just cried in there. And my response is, if you can't cry there, you can't cry anywhere. You heard me say it. So that's remained true. And being able to create that experience for people is something that we've held so tightly onto, and why virtual really was a struggle for us, because it was really hard to create that experience across the airwaves, across the internet. Yeah. What we've had to let go of is, we had to let go of the Hoxton. That was something that was a real struggle for us. And, you know, I opened the second location thinking I was building this thing, building this dream, and it just wasn't working.
Yeah.
It just wasn't working. People just weren't showing up the way that they once were. Patterns have changed and people just weren't showing up. And I woke up one day and I said, this doesn't fit anymore.
Yeah, I gotta let it go.
I gotta let this go. Kind of the other thing that I let go of was that dream of the empire, the yoga empire. I don't know if it's I no longer want that. I think I no longer want that in that way.
Sure.
But I also realized that, like, from a business perspective, you know, the pandemic helped me realize that maybe that wasn't right for us.
Sure.
And one of the things that was always a question for me as I thought about scaling was, how do I create consistency, but allow for creativity in the experience? And that was something that was a question I always had as I thought about scaling. And I kind of let go of that dream, you know, and I had to let go of being attached to numbers. Attendance has really been you know, a wild card.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Some days we have a full room and some days we have one person in there, and you know, you just can't predict it. So I've had to kind of like just surrender to some of that stuff as well.
Sure. I think it's interesting the way I've even been approaching experiences, like even where we're choosing to eat dinner. How we host our friends in our home. The other weekend, we had movie night, and it wasn't enough for me to put the pillows and blankets out and, like, you know, just turn on the movie, turn off the lights. I got the air mattress out. I pulled out every pillow and blanket that we owned. I made popcorn with M&Ms in it because it's like surprise, it's, you know, it's like the movie theater experience. Yeah, exactly. So turn the lights on, we had the backlit, we had the whole thing going. I feel like the pandemic has made me, certainly, but I assume many other people really cling to meaningful experiences.
Absolutely.
We're lacking connection in such big ways right now. And so it's just been interesting. I think it might be partly a stage of my life, but I am certainly evaluating what experiences feel like, how they get from your mind to execution in a completely different way today.
Absolutely. And I'll never forget when we reopened the studio and we decided that it was safe to do hands-on adjustments again because we were all masked and starting to be vaccinated. I remember giving someone an adjustment in class, and they came out in tears and they said, I haven't been touched in over a year by another human being.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That cut real deep.
Totally.
And it just made me realize, like, where we are as a collective and the collective toll this is taking.
Totally. I want to start talking a little bit more now about cultivating these meaningful and unique experiences, because I would consider you an expert at this. I think you do an incredible job. You have incredible visionary capabilities, but you also know how to bring them to life. And I've heard you say many times that there are necessary ingredients to, you know, executing the recipe, right? And then for you, it's how the towels are folded. Yeah. It's the precision of the blocks and the corner of that mat, which are perfectly lined up. It's the smell. It's the big things like the atmospherics, the music, the playlist, the practitioner on the mic, right? How do you go about, or what advice would you give to our community on, like, knowing what are the ingredients? What is the recipe? How do you know? Because there's a lot of people that own yoga studios that aren't doing what you're doing, right?
That. You know, one of the reasons I wanted to open the space between is because I could never find the kind of yoga experience that I was looking for. I was looking for a really deep, really soulful, really meaningful experience, and I couldn't find that. So I thought, what are the elements I want? What are the things I love? Scent is really important to me. And I know, like, it's really important to the emotions and to human beings, and the sound and all of those things were important to me. And I have to say, like, I'm my target audience.
Yeah, you do have that benefit.
I have that benefit of being my target audience. And so I pulled in all the things that I knew that I wanted, that it couldn't just be about asana. It couldn't just be about physical yoga, and it couldn't just be about asana plus music. It had to be this container. And, you know, you talk about the towels and the ingredients, and my team, like, rolled their eyes so hard at me in the very beginning when I was like, you know, you need to roll those towels tighter. You need to roll those towels tighter. But I never thought to tell them why. And then finally I understood that I needed to tell them why. And I said, hey, we're creating a recipe here. And all of these little things are the ingredients that go into this recipe. And if one ingredient is off, the entire recipe is off.
Yep.
And the reason that we're creating this container, this recipe, is because something that's really important to me with the space between is to allow teachers to teach from their true, most authentic self, from their heart, which means they're all different.
Yep.
Which means that that experience can be a little inconsistent.
Sure.
So if I created a consistent experience around it and created a consistent container, people would know what they were coming for.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And then a teacher got to be exactly who they needed to be in that space.
For sure. I think that makes a lot of sense. We have done a lot of experiences together, both in your walls and outside of your walls. We've done live DJ yoga. We've done sound journeys. We've done DJ sets and concerts and shows. And we've experienced a lot of experiences together. And I think for both of us, the ones that make us feel something or make us like arrive at a conclusion about ourselves, we learn something about ourselves, you leave with that feeling. I just keep doing this because it's like in your soul.
Here.
Yeah.
It's the
those are the ones that we want to return to the venue, return to the studio. We want to spend our money there. We want to invest more of our time and ourselves in those places. So ultimately what you're doing is you're creating stickiness and loyalty and trust. And you're creating a customer base that knows that they're going to get it from you every single time.
Absolutely. And it's so funny. Yesterday, I came across my first pitch deck for the space between. It was like a hard copy. I must have taken it to someone. It sat across their desk from them and flipped through it. And it was still beautiful. Yeah. And it still resonated so much. And what it said was that we needed to create that kind of experience for people. And if we did, they would come back. They would come back. And not only would they come back, because it's not just about coming back in numbers, they're part of our family. Right. They're part of our community. One of my students painted a painting for us in our colors of a half of a butterfly because she knows what evolution means to us. Yes. And she brought that to us yesterday and said, I painted this for you. We have a family.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's beautiful.
I can vouch for that. I can vouch for that.
Yeah, it's wild.
For sure. What role have partnerships and community played in creating experiences for the space between?
Could not do what we do without partners and community. As I always say, it takes a village to raise humanity. Yeah. And, we have yoga teachers and we have staff who come into our space, but to create additional experiences, we need other people who do what we don't do inherently to bring them in. And we've worked so closely with partners like Lululemon and other partners in the community to bring some of these experiences to life. Like Lululemon and I partnered on lakefront yoga a couple summers ago. I remember, and it was the most beautiful experience. And it was great. They brought the mats, they brought staff, we both marketed it together. And it was just a beautiful example of how two communities can come together to create something really special. So there is absolutely no way that we could do what we do without them being part of a community and without having wonderful and beautiful partners come into our space.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to shift a little bit. So we recently, myself and our co-founder and partner, Norm Ralph, have recently had the opportunity to come to the table with you and look at your vision, your current vision, your near-term vision, and your long-term vision,
and
right?
It's big.
And it's big. It's big. Spoiler alert, it's rooted in experiences. That ain't going away. That's what we do. But I want to see if we can speak something into existence today.
Okay.
What can people expect to see from the space between in the future?
I'm so excited about this, honestly. I think what people can expect is having a place not just to move their bodies, but to find radical transformation and really deep exploration through educational experiences, through soulful experiences, through destination experiences, master classes, breath work, meditation series, really evolving beyond just a yoga studio to something that really encompasses the whole person.
The whole self, yeah.
The whole self.
Yeah.
whole living and well-being. I don't want to call it, I feel like these phrases like wellness and well-being, but well-being is like a life well lived. How do we help people in their lives create practices and rituals that lead to transformation, healing, growth, exploration, which ultimately support a life well lived?
Yeah, absolutely. Why don't you share a little bit about the retreat that you have coming up? Because I know this is a big part of the vision, right? We want to be doing more of these and serving that community, the international community.
Yeah.
So you've got one coming up in 2 weeks.
Yes.
Share what the experience is going to be about, and maybe even a little bit of like what it's taken to actually cultivate this experience.
So we're going to Todos Santos, Mexico, to this beautiful retreat center called Pachamama. And Pachamama is Mother Earth. And it's this really earthy environment on the ocean. So you get a little bit of that desert vibe that I love so much, along with the ocean that I adore so much. That's part of my soul. They have like a rooftop yoga space, as well as this beautiful yoga shala that we'll gather in. We have 20 people going. Woo. 20 participants. Oh my gosh.
First retreat.
And to be honest, I think like aside from opening the studio, this is the biggest thing I've done professionally, the biggest leap I've taken professionally, taking 20 people with me.
Yeah, that are expecting transformation and light bulbs. And
So it's, I'm really like preparing myself to hold space for this community so that we can all hold space for each other. Each day we're going to have a really nice long yoga practice in the morning. We'll have beautiful meals prepared by local chefs. And we're going to do like a cacao ceremony and sound healing experience. We're going on hikes. We're going to have beach picnics and bonfires. And I think it's a really nice time. I think people are just craving something like this. They're craving travel. They're craving experiences. And people just want a place where they can just be.
Yeah.
The Wi-Fi is really weak at this place.
Intentionally so,
I'm sure. So I think it's going to be a really nice time for people to tune out of everything else and drop into themselves. And I am so excited to create that experience alongside all of these people.
Yeah. Well, you and I've been chief of staffing you for a while now. We did a vision board in 2019.
Yep.
And on that vision board was multiple units, multiple locations. But right behind that was, I want to be doing retreats. Like I have to be doing retreats. And, pandemic hit, paused that for a minute. But the second that you could make that possible again, you did. And so I'm very proud of you for making it happen. And I know that the people that you're about to serve are just going to come away changed in a great way. So I'm very excited for you. I love it.
I'm so excited.
You should be.
I'm nervous as hell.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'm nervous as hell, but I am so excited.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that's really fair. You're going to be amazing. I want to flip. So we've been working with you, Norm and I.
Yeah.
And I actually would love, a lot of our community are sitting in corporate chairs, right? Yeah. They're not running yoga studios. So that we're whiteboards and flip charts, your yoga mats and music, right? I want to flip it a little bit and have you speak to the experience that you had with us.
Ooh, okay.
So we created a space for Daryn to come into WeWork here, and we put her through a couple sessions. And I just want you actually to speak to what that experience was and what it felt like to go through that with us.
Absolutely. So this experience actually started with a lunch where they said, hey, let us just hear your story. And it gave me an opportunity to sit down and say, I'm having a hard time. This is really hard.
Yeah.
And you and Norm sat across that table from me and said, that's okay.
Yeah. We call it the real.
Yeah, it was the real.
Founders are often under supported. Nobody really asks how they're doing because they're supporting teams and other people, and they just a lot of times just grind and they don't get that emotional support. So we created that space for Daryn.
Yeah, and it was nice to sit across from people who said, like, we get it. So then they had me come into their space. You had me come into your space, and immediately I felt so safe and so supported. I finally felt like I had the support to dream, because I have these big visions and I have these big dreams. And then I start to think about not only how do I bring it to life? That I can do, but how do I keep this going?
Yeah.
And how do I build upon that? And we sat down, being my witchy self, I brought my Palo Santo and a lighter and cleared space in the room. We did some nice breathing and really settled in. And then we got to business. And it was really awesome whiteboarding the different aspects, practice areas of my business, and then measuring them against a number of different metrics, not just quantitative metrics like revenue or market position, but qualitative metrics like, how does this make me feel?
Yeah. Happy face, sad
Happy
face.
face, sad face.
That's how we arranged that one.
Happy face, sad face. And I was like, this makes me feel sad. And it immediately illuminated areas to deprioritize and illuminated areas to prioritize.
Was there anything surprising in that exercise?
A few areas, like maybe a yoga teacher training, which was kind of on my roadmap, higher on my roadmap for a really long time. And it sort of illuminated that, like, maybe we don't need to do that.
Yeah.
We don't need to do that. And really, it made me realize the only reason that we had really talked about doing that is because it was an opportunity to build some revenue for the business.
Right.
Right. And while that might be good for the business, not good for me, and it takes away from other areas of the business. So that was like an easy cross off. And then we started digging into numbers, and then I started sweating because that's what I do when I get around numbers. Remember, Mom? And I'm like, getting hives talking about all these numbers. And like what it illuminated also is being just a yoga studio, running yoga classes all day, every day. At best, we're like treading water. And there was no opportunity to really build like a profitable business, and also for me to make money, because it's important for me to make money, to be really honest. And then you'll ask some really hard, but as you say, provocative questions. And that was where the magic really started to like unfold.
Yeah, I want to share a little bit more about that. So I have a lot of fitness industry knowledge, as Daryn. And so it's easy for us to get boxed into like, this is what the industry does. This is what people do. And Norm has, other than a consumer, does not have fitness industry experience. And he was asking some wild questions, right? Which we're not going to expose those quite yet because we're not ready to. We're not ready to expose.
But you talk about
future.
sweating.
You talk like, Daryn's like, no. Like,
I could poke a visceral reaction.
Verbatim was, I could poke a million holes in this.
Yeah.
And in minutes, he's like, stay open, stop making assumptions. In minutes, we went from never gonna happen, I could poke a million holes in this, to this actually could happen. This could be like something that we do, which was pretty special and unique. We all kind of sat back at the end of that session. We were like, huh.
Yeah, like, interesting. And honestly, like really with that session, one of the most powerful things that session gave me was permission to see myself as an artist.
Yeah, so we talk a lot about the artists and the operators. Our shop is comprised of a handful of artists and a handful of operators. And Daryn says she's not an operator. She is bad at it. She can operate very well, but she doesn't like to. It's not her highest and best use. And we gave her permission that day to say, I'm an artist and that's what I want to be.
Yeah, and I've never thought of myself as an artist. I'm in ceramics classes now, and I'm like, that actually changed the game with my ceramics classes too, because I really started to see myself as an artist. And my work started to improve and I started to get more focused with it. But it gave me permission to say, these are the things I'm good at. I know I'm good at these things. These are the things that I could use some support on. And it made me feel like I actually had that support. Like I actually had that support.
So if you had to succinctly, like maybe in a sentence or a few words, say what that experience felt like. Because remember, this was a more corporate experience. We were holding space for you in an emotional way, but also in a very like targeted, strategic way. We were looking at your numbers of your business. We were looking at your practice areas. So it was a really beautiful balance of the two. And I'm asking this directly because I know people in our community sitting on leadership teams in big corporate offices, or even small business owners that really want to make an impact on their communities. Like, what was it about that experience that someone could walk away and be like, oh, I know what I need to do for my client, for my community.
From the very tactical, it gave me a really clear plan, like bias to action. These are the things that I need to do to move forward. But from an emotional perspective, it made me feel so safe and supported. I mean, you guys actually said, like, we got you.
Yeah.
We got your back. And I feel like when I started, then I can dream as big as I want to dream.
Yeah.
And I can, like, the world is my oyster.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Thanks for creating that space.
Oh man, I mean, I said this yesterday, like that experience was just as impactful for us as it was for you. Like we're getting to do, we call it big work.
Yeah.
Shout out to Nosa. We call it big work, and that's where we want to be. You know, we've been evaluating the type of work we want to do, and the type of work that lights us up, and this is it. So you've given us that opportunity, which is very special for us.
Oh,
so
I'm glad to be a part of this with you.
I love it. I want to end this on a rapid fire.
Ooh, okay.
Like a true rapid fire.
Okay.
So like 1, 2 words, like
Okay.
quick and easy.
Okay.
Don't worry, there's no loops in here.
Okay.
All right, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Are you sure?
Sure.
All right, let me buckle up for this.
Okay.
What did you leave in 2021?
Insecurities.
What are you reading, watching, or listening to right now?
Prince of Tides.
An ordinary moment in your life that brings you great joy.
Walking home from the yoga studio.
I love that. Would you rather travel to the past or the future?
Future.
Favorite meal?
A bagel and cream cheese.
Yes, I'm here. Favorite season?
Oh gosh, all of them? Summer, fall, spring.
In that order?
No.
All of them. Okay.
All of them.
Describe your style in 1 to 2 words.
Kindergarten chic.
Did you make your bed this morning?
No, Mom, I'm sorry.
What are you deeply grateful for right now?
You.
Thank you. Okay, think about something you admire about yourself and fill in the blank. If the world were more like me, it would be
Brighter.
Ladies and gentlemen, my best friend, Daryn Schwartz, the founder of the Space Between Yoga. I just adore you. Thank you so much for sharing this space with me today. I know we're going to do really, really big things this year, and I'm so excited to be alongside of you.
The world is our oyster.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for tuning into this episode 72. Can you believe it? We are so happy to have you guys here, and we will be back next week with another amazing guest who is ironically my brother-in-law.
Yay, Kevin
I'm so excited to bring Kevin Lobo to the table. He has been killing it in his career. So he's going to be coming to the table with our co-founder and partner, Norm Ralph. They're going to talk all things data, and they are going to dive into how he's been making leaps and bounds in his leadership and business development journey. So you're not going to want to miss that episode. Daryn, thank you again. I appreciate you. And we will see you guys next Thursday.